Ho, 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 and jolly holidays, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Talkin' with Andrew and Chris.
I am Andrew.
and I am your season's greeting, Chris. Welcome, guys. Thank you for joining us. Happy holidays. We hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving. We hope that Christmas in just a few days is amazing for you all.
What? What's happening?
No, I'm just kidding. See,
Was I asleep for too long?
Yeah, dude. This is why I tell you to set an alarm, even if it's just for a cat nap.
Look, I knew I was late to recording today, but I didn't think I was like 2 months late.
Yeah, look, man, a lot has changed in the past few. Actually, we can't go down that rabbit hole. We're still not there yet. Anyways, with that being said, guys, the reason for this kind of all over the place intro is because, well, this isn't your normal episode of Talkin' with Andrew and Chris. Again, Talkin' spelled Talkin apostrophe
Yeah.
no
I was gonna
G.
say the background looks a little different.
It does, yeah. It's a little neon-y. Unfortunately, our logo isn't there, but it will be soon enough. But there is another logo there, a show that I've kind of spoken about quite a bit because it's, well, my other show, Talkin' TV, that is. And so today we are introducing a new segment, a new monthly, not series, but show, a monthly exclusive, if you will, where Andrew and I can sort of fuse the both channels together and just share our mutual love for something that we kind of we didn't meet over it. We met through our good friend Tyler Wilson of 7715 on Sony
Shout
RTA
out.
Records.
Yeah, no biggie or anything.
How much of a hack do I sound like today? I love it, but there's something that I think forged the friendship of ours, and I think it's really what we're going to be talking about here today, which is video games. And guys, welcome to the second episode, but the first official episode of the Talkin' Network presenting No NPCs Allowed. Andrew, how you doing, man?
Wow, I feel like this is such a missed opportunity to have like an epic theme video song thing play right here, just like a
Did you
something
not
like
see
that.
the intro video at the beginning of this?
I
mean, you
asleep. I was
you
asleep.
edited it.
Remember?
Oh, okay. You must have You must have edited it in your sleep. Okay.
No, I edited it back in October, and now it's December, like you said, and now I just can't remember any of that stuff, dude.
Right. The snow has fallen. The leaves are fully ripped from the trees, and all hope has. Anyways, so what is going on, guys? Welcome.
What's up, guys?
Welcome.
To answer your question, Chris, I'm doing pretty good. I feel very confused because this intro is really throwing me off. But I'll get my groove in a second, I'm sure. But I'm okay
for sure, man. Take your time with it. Breathe. It's all gonna be okay.
I'm so nervous.
It's a new
show.
I really can tell. Listen, there's nothing really different about this show except for the first time in a long time it has a focus, so it might bode in our favor, actually.
Focusing is pretty tough for me, but I'll give it a shot.
That, you are the ultimate sparring partner, because every time I think I have you beat, you just come back and just parry exactly the move I was thinking of doing. And I think that explains the explosiveness of our dynamic, and that's why I'm excited to do this show with you. So, Andrew, you just got back from a little trip, and you don't have to divulge it to the listeners. I kind of want to make the push to be more personal in our broadcasting, in our relationship with them. But I mean, you had way more. I had a great time on Halloween. If you guys have seen or not seen, we hosted on Talkin' TV a watch along of Halloween 1978 on Halloween. All the hosts were in costume. We had a costume contest party giveaway, giving away a slasher t-shirt from our good friend David of Flix Talks.
I was this close to winning it. I was that close.
We actually had a decent amount of entries, and thank you guys so much for that. Again, if you want to catch any recaps, any replays of our month-long Halloween celebration, we talked about all things from classic films like Swamp Thing and The Thing, 1982, another John Carpenter flick, to we covered Bly Manor and The Babysitter, to name a few. So that's all over on the Talkin' TV channel. So I spent a lot of time in front of a computer this Halloween season.
Yeah.
You actually got out there into the world, and if you don't want to share, that's fine. But
I went to what some would call Halloween Town.
That is very true.
Yeah,
How was that?
I went to Salem, Massachusetts, which sounds dangerous because traveling right now is a little sketchy, but I had this trip planned for a while, and I was just there in September. And I don't mean to toot my own horn or anything, but I feel like I'm pretty smart when it comes to like not being an idiot and being like putting people in danger or myself in danger when it comes to getting sick or whatever. But I went to go see my girlfriend in Salem, and
Hmm. Humble brag.
humble brag, it was pretty cool. Had a good time. We were Kim Possible and Ron Stoppable, which is pretty funny.
Oh, nice, man.
Yeah,
That's
thanks,
pretty
thanks,
cool.
thanks.
That's a good costume
Now
idea.
what's interesting is the last time I was there in September, like obviously they were already like Halloween ready, like which shops are probably open all year round. This is my first time actually going in September. And while I was there was some guy dressed as an you seen the Vine where some guy's wearing like a scary nun mask and then a finger goes down his throat and he laughs?
No, I've
Okay,
thankfully never
well,
seen that.
I'm sure that at least most of our listeners slash viewers have seen that 'cause it's a pretty iconic Vine. Some guy was wearing that mask and like dressed up as a whole nun, but was also on stilts and was just kind of like
Your own
slowly
thing.
walking through the town, like just like with his hands together like that, just like looking around and waving at people and like literally doing nothing except walking slowly. So I was seeing that in September. I was like, I'm kind of nervous for October, even though they canceled like almost everything because of COVID and everything. But
Yeah.
you know, pretty wild. But all in all, I had a good time. You know, small gathering, some costumes, some funny games. I had a good time. And Salem is always spooky looking. So if you like spooky stuff and you have patience to wait until things are a little less chaotic, then I would say go to Salem. Maybe next Halloween and have a good
Yeah.
time.
And you know what I really respect the most, Andrew, is that I was like, dude, like it'll be fine. Like you guys were safe. You wore your mask and all that. And you're like, no, we can't hang until I have quarantine for 14 days. So we would have been doing this live in the new studio, but Andrew is respectful of other people, not just
Yeah,
himself.
I
So
would I would feel
thank you,
I would probably feel worse than I've ever felt in my life if I was the reason that your dog got sick, you know.
dude. That is very true. It would be, I think,
That would
detrimental
end
for.
our friendship.
Yeah, unfortunately, it would. I mean, look, pups are family, right?
Yeah, no,
Well,
I
Andrew,
wouldn't hold it against you.
what was it like taking a long car ride or train ride or whatever for the
Well,
first
I'll
time in
tell
a while? That
you.
must be cool.
Okay,
Or does it
well,
still suck?
okay, so this time, thankfully, my great friend of ours, friend of the shows, Steve Squid Montana, he's a good buddy of ours. He was nice enough to drive me to Salem this time because he was just gonna go visit
Wow.
for the day with his friend anyway. So that was cool that was like half the time it took me last time. Last time in September, I took a train from my house to New York City, which is the opposite direction of where I was trying to get. But I had to do that. Took a train to New York City to take a bus to Boston to take a train to Salem. And then that day I left my house at 7 a.m. and got to Salem at 3:30 p.m. So that was terrible because a 3.5 hour distance wise trip took like 10 hours to get there. Or almost 10, whatever it was. Way more than
Mhm.
3, which is how long
Yeah,
it
way
really
more
should
than it
take.
should have taken, right?
And and you have to wear a mask like literally the entire time. I had to wear a mask all day because I was just in a train station or a bus station or on a bus or on a train. And you're not supposed to take yours off when you're on those places anyway, but either way, I'm one of those people where like when I'm talking to people I'm like, I'm not worried about it, like I'm like, I know that it's real and like you have to be careful, but like I'm not scared, I'm not worried that I'm gonna get it. But then like when I'm in the moment, and especially when I'm by myself and I think about like, oh man, it's so uncomfortable, I want to take this mask off real quick, but then I'm like, but that's gonna be the time that something bad happens, so I'm not taking it off. And it's so weird to smell your own breath all day because it really changes more than you'd think it does.
So
And
that's
that's
kind of
something
your
I
big
learned.
takeaway,
My
really,
big
from the
takeaway
experience.
is that your mouth is a lot more, is a lot less, stagnant than you think it is.
Okay, the more you know, and I do want to note that "Train to Salem" is in fact my favorite Grateful Dead song. Um,
There's no way that's a real Grateful Dead song.
I mean, they have, I think, over like 1,000 songs, so it's a higher probability than most artists, and I think 1,000 is lowballing it, to be honest. It just sounds like it could be a Grateful Dead song. But with that being said, we're not here to talk about Andrew's personal life all day, as much as he really took that 3 minutes I wanted to give him and ran with it. We're here to talk about video games, and Andrew, I kind of want to let you take this one and sort of let us know your experience with all things horror and thriller and spooky in the video game world. You know, how much of that type of stuff do you consume?
Um, I think overall probably less than most other kinds of games, but as you were kind enough to remind me when we were talking about maybe doing this as a topic for a show, I've played more what would be considered scary games than I thought I did. Like originally I was just thinking like, well, I never really got into Resident Evil or stuff like that, or like was that Outlast or anything like that. Like I'm not into just the walking around really slowly, waiting for something scary to happen. Like
Oh, really?
that's also why I don't play Valorant, because that's literally my least favorite part of shooting games, is like when you know there's only like one enemy left and it's just you and them and you don't know where they are and they don't know where you are and you're just like walking around trying to hope that you see them first. Like I don't like that stuff. So I wasn't into that, but I don't really remember the first scary game I ever played. Although I think the first one I saw was, again, Squid, our buddy, was playing Dead Space in the dark at his house while I was there, and that was definitely scary to even just to watch.
Oh
So,
yeah, Dead Space is
and it was so cool,
it's a
and that
good
was like
game.
one
It's a
that I
classic
feel
at this
like
point.
that was one of the first ones that had like cool, good space graphics. You know, like good
So
gravity stuff. The aliens were scary, stuff like that.
I was gonna bring up Dead Space because I think what it did so well was it's not an RPG, it's pretty linear, but it took the play style of like a Mass Effect and
Mhm.
the graphic like prowess of a Mass Effect, which horror games for a long time, if you guys don't know, kind of followed the ideology of horror movies, wherein they were very low budget, they were indie studios, and they weren't ever really AAA stylized. And in video games, AAA is like blockbuster, so they didn't have the resources, the assets, if you will, to sort of produce like a more polished looking game, a more polished playing experience. And Dead Space, having major funding behind it, actually had that. So I think it kind of opened up the floodgates for kind of like not Alien and Aliens, the second one, which was more shooting and stuff, if you remember, where
Mhm.
James Cameron was kind of like, cool, we're going to give the people like a lot more guns now, and we're going to just have them just spray alien blood all over the
Right,
place. So like
like
it kind
more
of gave you that
action,
type of
less
feel.
suspense.
Like, yeah, exactly. Like Doom, just without demonic presence and
Right.
with
Yeah. Like
like,
I
you know,
wouldn't say
crazy
Doom is
alien
like
type thing.
a scary game because you never really feel powerless in that game. Like you're always like, I'm a badass and I'm running through killing demons. But like in Dead Space,
That
you're like,
is
the power's out. I don't know what's going on. I have probably limited ammo. I'm picking up guns as I find them. Like that's the kind of stuff, which is also, I'll talk more about it in a minute, but like that's how Last of Us is too, which is part of what makes Last of Us scary. Is like, yeah, it's got zombies and stuff, but like you're also like, I literally have 3 bullets total. Like not 3 bullets in this clip. I have 3 bullets total, and I know there's like 8 zombies around. So like that's scary in itself. But also, what I'm remembering that I literally just had on the tip of my tongue when you were talking about Dead
well.
Space.
Did you know that Dead Space 3 came out this year?
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I knew that they were making it, but I thought something
it
else happened.
it came out and it's like a huge flop. No one's talking about it. Apparently
Hmm.
it like plays horribly, and that just makes me upset, man. I didn't even watch Co play it, you know? It's like sometimes I won't buy a game and I'll just watch a
Hmm.
streamer play it. Co Carnage is my dude. Shout out Co. I don't actually know him, but I feel like I do know him actually by how open and honest he is on his streams and how much of
Right.
himself he gives to his listeners. Anyways,
I just remembered though. Hold on. Speaking about Dead Space,
so I was
even
just
before,
killing it anyways.
even shout out Greg. Um, Even before Dead Space, actually, I just remembered. I think my first taste of like horror game is the
Oh
flood
yeah,
level
sure.
from Halo. I think it's
Okay.
probably Halo 3, right? When you go
Didn't
into like the
know it was
library or
gonna.
whatever.
Yeah, of course, at level 8 of Halo 2. I had no idea that this conversation would take us there, but let's talk about it.
Yeah,
Now,
the flood were creepy because like I wasn't the biggest Halo fan as a kid. Like the only one I ever actually owned before owning the Master Chief Collection now as a grown up was Halo 3, and I played through the campaign a lot with that one. Like me and again Squid and his younger brother, Squid and his younger brother took me through that entire legendary Halo 3 campaign and showed me where all the skulls were, and it was so sick and so fun.
mhm,
And I remember getting to that level, and right when it starts,
VidMaster Challenge.
yeah, well, I never did that because that was way above my skill level, but I got all the skulls and that was enough for me because I wanted the ninja armor.
Okay.
But at the beginning of that level and the one flood jumps above you and you have to shoot him to get the skull, like first I was like, what the hell did you even just shoot? Because like the body comes down and it's like this weird, like grotesque thing that like limps and has like a claw on one arm and then like a shriveled up hand on the other arm. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? And then you get further and further in and you see like the weird like thing, like it almost looks like Half-Life with like the shit taking over the Marines, and you're like, what the hell is going on? And then you see the little things chasing you and you're like, I don't know if I should shoot these things because I feel like I'm not going to be finding a lot of ammo because this is a zombie level and there's never ammo in zombie games, so like I'm nervous. And that was definitely the first time that a game like made me like anxious to survive.
Gotcha. Yeah, with me and Halo, it's really funny, and then I do want to dive into more
Mhm.
horror-based games, but you know, I bought Halo 2 before I got Halo 1 because it was probably like 12 around that time, 11. And I think I thought I was ordering a different game. This is like the early days of Amazon.
I've been there,
And
dude.
so it came and I opened it up and I was so upset. I don't even remember what game I wanted to get, but my dad was like, I mean, just try it. And so I put it in and I remember playing it
I have never
and
heard this story, and it's so funny because I know how you are with Halo, and that's a hilarious
yeah. It was
intro
an
to
accident.
Halo.
And then I just remember like sitting there and burning a whole day, dude. My mind was absolutely blown. It like Halo to me, before there was music, there was Halo, right? Like that was the first thing I ever truly loved. If you wanna
Oh my
really go there,
god.
maybe Naruto. Maybe Naruto was like 6 months before it. But
That's
so
so
like,
funny.
and I just remember sitting there and having my mind blown and being actually scared but not being able to stop playing the flood level. So what I would do is I would restart and get up to that level on all the hard difficulties, like working my way up, and then I was like, all right, I actually have to go in there because I was like so terrified of it, dude. It was a crazy level and it was so
They did
hard
a
to
real
beat because I
they
just
did a
kept
really
going
good job with
around in
that stuff.
circles and circles in that room. I
Yes.
hated it. I
Dude, it's because
absolutely
all
hated
the
it, but I
flood,
loved it.
like all the flood like crap that gets on the walls and everything, it makes every room look the same.
Yeah. Dude, Halo is absolutely just a phenomenal game. But
Right.
Andrew, speaking of phenomenal games, walking simulators and horror are kind of like one of my favorite things to play because I don't play many single player games anymore. It's really just all about like, hanging out with the homies that are scattered across the country,
Right.
keeping up with
Like
them and
playing
stuff, and
Monopoly.
like playing Monopoly hardcore lately, which is what we've been doing. Just like online games, Overwatch Halloween events, pretty tight as per usual, but it's kind of losing its allure just a little bit, but that's
Well,
okay.
it's over now, unfortunately, but I know
Yeah,
what you
we're
mean.
waiting
It's like
for.
well, it's like it comes and then you play and you're like, "Wow, this was really fun." And then like you play for a week and you're like, "But it's literally the same exact thing as last year and they've never changed it ever except for these challenge missions." So you're like, "Now I'm kind of over it." But the Halloween maps always look amazing.
Right, we're waiting for my group, at least when I say we're waiting for the second Overwatch to kind of like re-spark our love for the game because it is a good game, but it's like, okay,
Right.
guys, come on now.
Lots of
It's
rumors
it's
that the beta for Overwatch 2 will be in April or May.
Yeah, whatever those rumors are, I won't believe them till I see them. Because, like, let's just use Cyberpunk as an example, getting pushed back a fourth time. And I'm actually really excited about that game. I want to do a podcast on it when it comes out. But, I mean, it's just like at this point, dude, come on. Like, just, it's
Listen,
okay. We're not going to be
I've
mad. Just actually tell us when you think it'll be done.
yeah, listen, I've been there, all right. When you know how much I love Kingdom Hearts, I mean, I have Kingdom Hearts
Yeah, for sure.
tattoo right here, and Kingdom Hearts 2 was pushed back so many times that it got pushed back over a year. Like It was like a week before it was supposed to come out the first time. Oh, it's getting pushed back a few months. All right, whatever. It's getting pushed back a few months. Okay. It's getting pushed back a couple weeks. Okay. It's getting pushed back a few months. Okay. Okay. You've now pushed it back over a year. Just tell us you're working on it and then just let us know when it's done. I don't care anymore. Just tell me when it's done. So I've been there.
125%. It's ridiculous, man. It's just like, come on, guys. Like, you can't make something look this cool, tell us Keanu Reeves is in it, and then keep delaying it. Like, that's not okay. It's a quarantine. People need things to look forward to. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't be doing that.
And then also on that quarantine side, it's like, we get that you can't finish it as soon as you wanted to. Like, we understand. We're not going to be like, then forget your stupid game. Like,
right.
Just don't string us along.
So, you know, as I became an older gentleman, I started to get a little money in my pocket, and so I was like, you know what? I think it's time I buy a gaming PC. And I heard a lot of good things about this Steam service, and they throw a lot of games on sale all the time. And guess what? I listen to albums sometimes just because the artwork looks cool. Talking to you, The Devil Wears Prada, with that new record. It's Halloween season, and I checked it out, and I actually wanted Screaming for the first time since like 2012, and I didn't get it. Was a little upset.
I mean, the first couple songs are pretty kind of heavy, but
just not what I want. I just wanted to know that they hadn't changed, is what I'm trying to say. And they did very, very badly change in a way that I'm like, we already have Bring Me the Horizon. We don't need a fourth mini version.
We've got Bring Me the Horizon. We've got what is it, I the Mighty or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Who guess what? That is their lane. They're not switching to a new lane. You know, at least turn your blinkers on first and give us some warning. Jesus. But that's a different conversation. So I got this gaming PC, and I've been hearing a lot about this game Firewatch because it was sort of like one of those weird little indie games that I've always heard about that I never had a chance to really play because I was just like a console kid. Shout out my console kids.
I remember you showed me this game once, and we named that beagle Bucket.
Yeah, dude, the beagle named Bucket. You got it. If you guys don't go the beagle named Bucket route, shout out all my Bucket Beagle guys out there and gals. You know what I'm talking about. And I just like fell in love. I was like, whoa, this is like playing a movie. There's not much gameplay mechanics, but what there is fully immersive sound design, scoring, storyline, like choose your own path, like your decisions dictate the story.
And I like that in these kinds of games, like, you can kind of decide the pacing too.
You can 100%. You can. You are the storyteller and receiving the story at the same time. It's really cool. And like the indie world game design has just increased so much because of like how Unreal Engine and all that stuff has just come forward. I'm a nerd. I read a lot of tech blogs. We don't need to get into that, but it is insane how good this stuff looks, man. And so I was like, whoa, this is cool. And it has this really creepy twist at the end. You find out it's not as much of a horror game as they lead you on to believe the whole time. It's actually explained as, you know what? I don't want to spoil it for people out there. It is a flirtatious way to get into walking simulators and horror games.
Listen, if you want to talk about a walking simulator that looks and sounds and breathes like a horror game, but then all the way at the end you find out it was never a horror game and you're just a bitch for being scared that whole time, then let's talk about Gone Home, because I'm still not over it. Okay. So like Steam, PlayStation Plus, if you're a member, they give you 2 free games a month. Like usually it's like one of them is like a really good game that came out like 2 years ago or something. And then the other game is like some arcade game or an indie game or something like that. So 1 month, it's free game, Gone Home. There it is. And the premise of this game is, I don't remember any of the characters' names. You're a girl, you come home from your trip to Europe or whatever, you're probably in college or something, and you come home, you know, gone home, you've gone home. And there's a note from your parents or something that says like, we went out, I don't remember if they're like, we went out to look for your sister or we went out to eat, or I don't know, but you're the only one home. And you don't know where your parents are, maybe you do, I don't remember. You don't know where your sister is. You keep walking around the house and you find notes and clues and stuff that's like, oh, like, since I've been gone, like, life has been weird at home and my parents have been fighting with my sister and all this other stuff. And the entire time you're playing this game, it happens in one night, the whole night. It's raining, it's thunderstorming, it's dark, You know, like you're walking through your house quietly by yourself. There's no dialogue. You're by yourself and it's just raining. Then you find like a secret passageway in your house and you find all these notes and you find like your sister was like talking to this girl that like was trying to join the army and shit. And you're trying to, and I'm like, this whole game, I'm like, dude, my sister got freaking killed by some dude who's been secretly living in my house and I'm trying to find him. I have no idea where he is. I'm so nervous the entire time I'm playing this game. Like I'm like waiting for someone to jump out at me, waiting to find some dead body or something. And then you get to the end of the game, spoiler alert, you get to the end of the game, you get up in the attic and you find out that your sister just fell in love with some girl and they ran away to Seattle. And I'm like, hold on. This entire game, in a stormy night, you're home alone, you find a secret passageway in your house, and this wasn't even a horror game, and all it is your sister was like, our parents don't understand, I'm in love with this girl, we're running away to Georgia. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
Love about these types of games is the way that they deliver the story beats. Like in Firewatch, you have the woman calling you on the intercom the whole time, the other fire tower, because basically you're up there in Colorado, and in the 80s, they had fire towers still. It was like the end of the fire tower era, and there would be fires, and they would spot them and try and save the forest from burning down and burning down towns and stuff. So you never meet her in person because she's miles and miles away. Like you look through this binocular to see her.
Right. Yeah, I remember the beginning.
They deliver. Yeah, exactly. They deliver the story beats through like a little radio, and in Gone Home you get like these notes that you can read, and I believe there's voiceovers too as you're like walking, but you're always alone in these games.
Yeah, there's notes and then there's like voicemails, but that's it. Notes and
did you get to the part where you find the record player in the living room and you can like listen to like the old 50s songs? So on that table there is a flyer to go and be a fire tower watcher in the Firewatch world, because these are the same developers.
Right, they do. Really cool. They did look similar.
Yeah, so it's pretty funny that you kind of went to this one next.
Right, but
and so these guys do a good job, and they obviously sort of, Firewatch being the game that came out first, and then they moved on to Gone Home. They did a good job of really leaning more into the horror elements that I think really worked in their first installment, Firewatch, and now Gone Home, they lean into it.
If you really want to talk about, in my opinion, maybe the best horror walking simulator that was ever made, even though, again, I'm going to say that I am no expert at walking horror simulators because I don't play a lot of them, but you have to talk about PT, because that one was like everything from P period T period. Made by, I want to say, Hideo Kojima. Yeah. So it's like it's tied into the Silent Hill universe, I think. And the entire game takes place in one hallway.
Oh, this guy did Death Stranding. This guy and Metal Gear Solid. So this I've heard a lot about Kojima. Apparently he's like a big deal.
He is a very big deal. This game, PT, it was a demo you could download on PlayStation. It's not up anymore. You can't get it anymore. It takes place in one hallway, like one L-shaped hallway. And you literally just loop this hallway over and over and over again. And the whole time there's like this one ghost lady that's like around and like chasing you and doing things. But you also like sometimes when you go through the hallway, you go into the bathroom and you see this like dead baby in the sink, and sometimes you go around and you see like a ghost. Like,
okay, can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
Would it be this hallway?
Yes, that's the hallway. And you can see in that little picture that says PT hack confirms we're always being followed. That's the ghost in the game. Gotcha. I don't remember what her name is, but that whole PT hack confirms whatever they're saying. That is like when this demo dropped, people lost their minds. It was fucking crazy.
Was this like the 2000s or something like that?
No, it was like
a better look at the hallway,
ago, maybe 5 years
audio
ago.
Version available on youtube.com/talking with Andrew and Chris.
I don't know. Yeah, you walk down that hallway and you turn right, and then it's essentially like the front door entranceway of the house, and then there's a door that leads to like the basement, but then when you open that door, it just leads to this spot in the hallway again. And in this game, literally anytime you don't see the ghost lady, she's directly behind you, like behind your player character at all times.
Okay.
Like you just hear her breathing and making twitching sounds, and then like you turn around and she's not there because she's still behind you. And it's just
love that.
And it's an insane story that you have to play through a bunch of times to really understand, because like all the story beats are so like subtle and vague. And then you get to the very end and it's like they give you a cutscene for a game that I don't even know if they're still making this game, because I'm pretty sure that this entire demo is just like essentially an interactive intro sequence to tease the new Silent Hill game starring Norman Reedus. But then I think they stopped making that game because of a bunch of reasons, and then they took that game and just made Death Stranding instead. So now PT is just this weird, obscure, terrifying hallway game that you can like never play again. And it's the craziest thing to watch. I watched
I'll have
it
to
on
look
YouTube,
up.
and then I
Yeah,
watched
I'll
a
have
whole
to
bunch
look
of
up a gameplay
breakdowns.
video of that or something.
It's crazy, and it's so scary looking.
Gotcha.
Like, I didn't
Yeah,
even, I couldn't even play it, and I was spooked by it.
that is when walking simulators kind of came around, like in 2014, 2012-ish. There was like that game Amnesia, The Dark Descent, which was like they consider it the first walking simulator. Actually, the Dark Descent is the newest one. I don't know the name of the original. I haven't really delved into that series too much. It might just be Amnesia. I feel like they've always had a colon and then something. I'm not sure. I haven't got into that series too much. So that was like the first credited walking simulator, and then so PT is in that 2014 range. There's another game in that 2014 range, which I did a little allusion to it at the beginning of this podcast, which would be whoops, not that one.
I was gonna say, I was like, I don't think that one was a walking simulator.
Oh, this one is. Sorry, whoops, I had the wrong thing on my screen. This 100% is a walking simulator. Alien Isolation is an incredible game. I only played it this past quarantine, actually. It is, you play as Ripley's daughter, and you are sent to, Ripley's mother. And you are actually, it's pre-dating Alien, but apparently it's canon. You have to go out there and visit this sort of like space colony of scientists that are far from Earth, who had this spaceship come from the forest, reaching the galaxy, and obviously on it, it had a unknown pathogen that got into the spaceship known as the Alien. And so once you arrive, the spaceship is in shambles. You get there and you crash into it, quite literally, because the gravitational orbit that it has is all thrown off from the weight being messed up, from the alien just ravaging it and stuff. And from there, it's just fight to survive and kill the alien, because you're not going to make it out alive. And you learn all this in the beginning. Like, this is a suicide mission, quite literally. Kill the alien, save humanity. And it's so intense, dude. Like, you're hiding in lockers. You are, hiding in cabinets. The only thing you can really do is fend off the alien with like a flamethrower, or with like a floodlight, or with a pistol. But you can never kill it.
Yeah.
Nope. You can never kill it. And it's so intense. It actually, narratively, is one of the stronger of these types of games. It has like a story that you play through that is a little more concise and to the point, because a lot of these games are like very interpretive. I think, again, that's like the budgetary restraints of just the horror genre in general, and also part of the scare factor. But obviously, this being produced by Sega, I forget the actual company, but like the main publisher was Sega, so it had money thrown at it. And it was, the cool thing about this is it was a Skunksworks project, because Sega had asked 3 game developers to create an Alien title, and you can find all this in the No Clip documentary on it. Actually, they just put it out this past week. It was really interesting. Sega asked.
It was published by Sega, developed by Creative Assembly and Feral Interactive.
Right, CA would be the company, Creative Assembly. And so Sega was like, hey guys, like we have the Alien IP, we've leased it for 3 games, and we want you guys to do one of them. What can you come up with? They brought them this. By the time they had gotten their pitch off the ground and their little demo of this off the ground, Sega said, this is great, but the first 2 Alien games we already put out have tanked. We have moved on. We're just going to hang on to this and maybe come back to it for the last title in a few years, but we don't plan on releasing a 3rd in this series. Can you make us like a Wii Sports Olympic competitor type game? And so they were like, damn, this is really good. And the lower creative reps at Sega were like, this is really good. I would hate to see this go somewhere. So they kind of like formed a corporate coup where they would show Sega this Olympics game, and there'd be like no progress on it. And then in that final meeting, when they knew they were going to get fired or lose the job from Sega, they were like, but wait, we have this incredible demo, unlike anything you've ever seen. In the 11th hour, they switched it from 3rd person to 1st person, which I think was huge because this game, why I bring it up and why I went back and played it so many years later, because the graphics definitely are, while they're solid, they're old now. This game was kind of like, oh, so this is the format of a walking simulator. This is what that is. Like, it helped set that in stone.
Right.
And I think it did a lot, quite honestly, for the indie gaming world, having this big IP attached to it, but still having this like indie game feel. So it's got a really cool story, both in its production and in its gameplay. And it's 10 out of 10. It might be one of my favorite games of all time. Like if we did a list on this show of 10 favorite like single player story games of all time, this would probably be like 9 or 8. It's really good. I would highly recommend it. That's why
Well,
it still fetches the $25 that it cost when it came out to this day. It's like one of those Witcher type things where we'll put it on sale, but it's still selling copies at
right.
its original retail value.
Wow. That sounds pretty cool. I mean, I think the first game, I think the first horror game that I got into like that I thought also had a really good story was Bioshock.
Mm.
That one spooked me, and that one I thought had a really cool story.
Kind of back to that
And
Dead Spacey style of gameplay.
right, exactly. Like I don't even know why I played Bioshock, honestly. Like I feel like looking back at it, it was not a game that would have interested me. It had to have been like a friend of mine was like, yo, this game looks sick. And I was like, oh, it looks kind of cool. Yeah, I'll check it out. And maybe I didn't know it was supposed to be scary or something, because I don't know why I would have bought a scary game at that time in my life.
Yeah, we were kind of young when that game came out, and I think I had similar feelings where the commercials were scary, but I thought it couldn't be that scary. Like little girl on top of giant scary man, that got me when I was a little kid. Like still can't really finish The Shining at nighttime.
It was,
you know,
honestly, it was probably that I saw that it was like you have guns, but then you also like could throw fire and lightning and stuff, and I was like, oh, cool, superpowers. But then like you start the game and you're on a plane, and you're just like, oh well, just on this plane, and then the plane crashes, and then you're just the first time you can move your character, you're just swimming in the ocean. You're like, huh? Like what? And then you just see a freaking building sticking out of the ocean. And you're like, well, I know what this game's about, so I think I got to go to the building in the middle of the ocean. And then you find this city that they built underground, and you're like, oh, this is so cool, the city. And then you get inside, and you're like, but where are all the people? And then all of the people are like strung out druggies trying to beat your head in with a wrench because they need some crazy drug you've never heard of that you're going to start collecting from these little zombie girls that are being protected by these scuba diving looking guys with drills for hands. And then like, and all of that honestly is scary enough. But then they went a step further, and like the set, like all of the levels look amazing. They all are scary. And then like, I'm going to spoil a scene in this game just because of how much I remember it. Like this is the kind of game where like when they give you weapons, they want you to be like, it's a big deal that you're getting this new weapon, like we're giving it to you in a cool way. Like the first gun you find is a revolver, and you find it in a baby carriage after they teach you to sneak up behind this enemy who's like talking what you think she's talking to her baby in the carriage, and you beat her with the wrench like to kill her while you're sneaking so that they teach you how to do that. And then you look in the stroller and there's just a revolver in it, and you're like, oh, this crazy woman was like talking to a gun like it was a baby. But what I'm trying to get to is that you walk into this room, and it's a fully lit room, and there's a shotgun. I don't remember if it's like with a dead body or if it's on a table or what. You find the shotgun, and you're like, oh, hell yeah, dude. Love shotguns in video games. You pick it up, all the lights turn off, and you're like, that's not a good sign. Then one light turns on in the middle of the room where you're standing. And you're like, okay. And then all of a sudden, from just every corner of the room, enemy comes out one at a time. They just come running out of darkness like, oh, and you're like, what the fuck? And you're boom, 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 and I'm like, thank God I have the freaking shotgun now. And then you kill like probably 15 enemies, and the lights come back on, and you're like, what the fuck just happened, dude? I'm like 13. Dude. And I just remember like so many times in that game just walking around corners so slowly because I'm like, I am so fucking scared. Because they like the only time there's music is when you're already in the middle of a fight. Other than that, it's just silence. You hear drips, you hear like weird machines doing things, and then you just hear like, ah, and you turn around and there's some crazed heroin addict running at you with a pipe, and you're like, ah.
Yeah, that game had some seriously intense subject matter and some kind of interesting social commentary if you really think about it.
And then the cool twist at the end that I'm not going to spoil, like it's so good.
Don't spoil it.
I'm not. It's so good. Bioshock 2 was not scary at all, and I didn't really like it. But then Bioshock 3, I wouldn't say it was scary like this one was, because there wasn't like darkness and all spooky or whatever. But at the same time, I felt like that one, as much as it wasn't scary, it still like had you in suspense because you're like, there's a bad guy and I'm trying to save this woman who they're trying to get, and like all the enemies still felt like they were like strung out and trying to like rip you apart. It was
Right.
definitely still kind of creepy, but nothing like the
No,
first
yeah,
Bioshock.
I never beat a Bioshock game just because they always got a little too intense for me. I don't think I played the third one, Infinite. I played the first, and I
Mm.
remember the second not being
When I
that
got
great, so I
when I
kind
got
of
to the
walked away
end,
from it.
when I got to the end of Infinite, the twist blew my brain so far out of my skull that I literally dropped my controller on the ground. I was sitting
Damn.
in my room playing it, sitting in front of the TV. I like beat whatever's the end of the game. You're watching the end cutscenes and shit when they're like teaching you shit, and then it's like, here's the twist, and I was like, I just dropped my controller. I froze. I was like, what? It's
And
fucking crazy.
you've replayed these games quite a bit, right?
Yeah, I have the remastered collection, and I played through the first. I've played through the first one, and I played through Infinite again because I tried to play through the second one, and I was like, I really don't like this game.
Mm-hmm.
But
Gotcha.
I know the first one and Infinite really well.
Yeah. No. Two things I have to add to that. One, I want to apologize to Paul Gyomai for all your potty mouth here. I know he raised you better, and it's a little, upsetting that you have to curse to get a point across. And so sorry,
Wow.
Dad. And two, I
Why
want
are
to
you
say
sucking up to
that,
my dad?
hey man, I feel like that's not cool, man. He doesn't like that type of thing. And you know what, Andrew, you can do better than that. And so this speaking of doing better than that, it's funny you brought up BioShock because the next game I was going to bring up is a game called Closer to the Sun. Now, the reason this game is on the list is because preemptively, knowing Andrew so well, I knew BioShock would come up. And so I
Whoa,
played this
okay.
game because
Okay.
this game is created by people who love BioShock. It's basically a walking simulator and an homage to BioShock. And they say that very clearly when they do interviews and whatnot. This game is about if Nikola Tesla had the ability to hire all of the creative people in the world at the time, the top scientists, the top engineers, and put them on a mega boat out in the ocean to work on his crazy experiments where they were safely away from society so that they wouldn't harm anyone, but they could make all the progress that he wanted to make. And so throughout it, I don't know how much you guys know about Nikola Tesla. Go look him up. He has a lot of grand ideas that sadly most of them never came to fruition. And I don't know if many of them could, but he certainly dreamed up a lot of intense, deep sci-fi style, but rooted in
There's
reality
a reason
inventions.
why he's still being talked about and used like this because he was pretty crazy smart.
Yeah, so of course all hell breaks loose and they open a portal
Yeah.
to a
All of
not
these
good
pictures
place.
look pretty crazy.
And you got to escape. It's a walking sim. A lot of walking simulators you have to escape. The premise is cool. The execution was poor, but if you guys like BioShock, you might get something out of it. So I would at least say go and check that one out. And was glad I was able to
Interesting.
sneak that one in there.
Well,
And
that's
so
good. Listen, hold on. I think we're getting we're already in the second half of the episode. We're rounding the corner, if you will. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't. I don't know if I even used that word right, but I'm just going to power through it. I think that we need to bring up zombie games. Like I mentioned Last of Us before, but like Last of Us, Left 4 Dead, Resident Evil, Silent Hill, like that's a whole genre of game that has a whole bunch of different executions. Like Silent Hill is way different than Resident Evil, which is way different than Left 4 Dead, which is way different than Last of Us. And it's so crazy that you can take something that's just like zombies are a problem in the world and you have to deal with it. And they've made so many different ways of doing that.
sure, yeah. So let's start here. Andrew, I never really played this game
Mm-hmm.
because, well, I borrowed your. You very graciously lent me or loaned me your your PlayStation 3 back in the day with Last of Us
Mm-hmm.
for the sole purpose of playing Last of Us, but I could just never bring myself to play it. So it was at my house for like 9 months and I never played it. But
It's true.
I really regret that. But you played this game quite a bit and you're
I
currently working your
played I
way through the
played the
second,
first
right?
one. Yeah, I played the first one on PS3, and then I got the remastered version on PS4. I played through that DLC thing, and then yeah, now I'm probably. I mean, I don't know exactly how far I am. I think I'm about halfway. I'm like 14 to 15 hours in or something.
Mm-hmm.
I think I just finished Seattle Day 2 for those who have played. I just left the hospital. If people who are listening know, have finished the game, I just left the hospital in Seattle.
I don't.
That's it. Well, first I'll talk about the first one because I know that one a lot. First of all, this game, like, what I really like about this game is that they did something that, like, a lot of games, they give you a lot of choices in this game, but not the same way that games that advertise choices do. Like all these games, like Dishonored or Fable or even like Fallout and Skyrim and stuff, like you can kind of do whatever you want. So it's like you can choose to like be a good guy, you could be a bad guy, blah blah blah, whatever. This game, which like will change the story, and maybe some NPC doesn't like you down the road because you were a bad guy, blah blah blah, whatever. But this game does it in a different way where like the story and the levels are all the same. Like you have to go through the same level, you see the same cutscenes, everybody interacts with everybody the exact same way, but they give you can choose which way you play through this story. Like you can go in guns a-blazing and just be like, I'm shooting everything in the face and I'm running through the levels quickly. That's what I like to do. I am good at that. I have good aim. Or if you're like me and you don't have that great of aim when you're using a controller in The Last of Us, you can sneak around and just stealth kill everything, which I thought was really cool because it was like, here's the story, but you could play it however you want. Like the story, we wrote the story, and the story's too good for you to fuck up, which is true. The story is so good. And listen, I'm not going to get into a lot of the story because I don't want to spoil anything, and I could probably just ramble about the story for a long time, but I will tell you how good the story is by telling you this story. I brought The Last of Us to my buddy PJ's house to show it to him because he had never played it. He played through the intro, which, for those who haven't played the first Last of Us, the intro sequence of this game is you start as the character Joel. He's in his house with his daughter Sarah. They're hanging out at home, and then like Sarah falls asleep on the couch, and then you play as her first, and you're walking around the house being like, oh, I just heard some weird noise and my dad is gone. And then like you're looking around and you see the news that's like, oh, shit's so scary and people are sick, and you're like, oh, that's weird. And then Joel shows up, and then you have to like run away from all these zombies, and then at the end of this beginning part, like your daughter dies, and it's so sad. And like we get through this whole thing, the zombies are showing up, and it's like a prequel for the rest of the game just to show you when it affected the main character. And then like it's a really emotional beginning thing, like his daughter dies in his arms and everything. And then I like turn to PJ when the credits start rolling to like get to the actual game. I'm like, dude, pretty sick, right? And I look at him and he's crying. And my buddy PJ is like, he's from the streets, like he's tough. One time when I was at his place, he was on the phone and he's like, yo, some dude that my homie sold drugs to says that the drugs were bad, so he's coming back, so we're all gonna fight him. And I was like, cool, that means I'm leaving. So I went home that day. But this day was a different day. And so when I tell you that he was crying from seeing the beginning of this game, this dude
getting out of there quicker than grease lightning.
Yes. And so the fact that this dude was crying from the beginning of this game, he's like, bro, I can't keep playing this game right now. You got to turn it off. Like, it's so sad. I was like, dude, like this game grips you. Like, I don't know if you've ever read The Road by Cormac McCarthy, but that's one of those things where it's like sad, 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 sad. Maybe it's good. Nope, it's sad. And that's kind of like what this game is like. It's like the world is so shitty and their lives are so shitty. And then you're like, oh, but this moment's kind of nice. And then they're like, but remember, they live shitty lives. And then it's just like, it takes you for a ride. And then even if the story was kind of whatever, like the game is just so fun and so rewarding, and like it looks so good, and the zombies are cool, and the story is great. And now I'm playing through the second one, and it's like the same game in the best way. Like the controls are all the same. You play as Ellie, which I always liked playing as Ellie more than playing as Joel. I don't know if that's a hot take or not, but Switchblade is way better than making shivs, IMO. And I just the story is so good. And with the second one too, because of how much better the graphics are and everything, it's not like a walking simulator is like playing through a movie, but this looks and feels like a movie. Like every time you're just playing through the game, people are talking to each other. Their facial expressions are always changing. I was standing on top of a building and killed some human being that was trying to kill me, and I kill her, and then like the other enemy goes, Kimberly! And I was like, oh my God, they all have names. Like they're all humans. It's so insane and so in depth, and it's so fun. And there's all new zombies, and zombies are always popping up everywhere, and it's so scary and so emotional. And it's just, The Last of Us is my favorite zombie game.
Yeah, I had to give you the solo box there because, god damn it, you were on one in the best way possible. Yeah, I guess that's
appreciate
why
it.
they're making an HBO show about it.
Yeah,
I
which
mean,
I'm very
HBO's throwing
excited
video game
and
some money.
also scared about. Like, just like
Yeah.
I'm scared for the Avatar live action thing, which we're not going to talk about, but I'm
Oh, that
nervous.
got canceled, by the way.
Oh, it's just canceled?
Done. Donezo.
Honestly, I'm relieved.
Really?
As soon
I
as
was really looking forward to it.
as soon as both of the creators of Avatar were like, yeah, Netflix said they were going to let us have creative control, and then they kind of like didn't do any of the stuff they said they would, so we're not working on that thing anymore. I was like, well,
Mhm.
that means that Netflix literally don't know what the fuck they're doing, and they're going to ruin everyone's favorite American anime cartoon. So I'm
Yep.
glad that it's just canceled.
Yeah,
But I think The
totally.
Last of Us is going to be there's a lot less room to make that bad, as long as they don't just try to do like a carbon copy of The Walking Dead.
Well, HBO's pretty on point with their adaptations, I would say. I mean,
But
Game of
so you didn't
Thrones,
play The Last of
Very
Us,
Dark
but you
Materials.
definitely played Left 4 Dead, right?
Yeah, man. I really liked Left 4 Dead, especially the second one. I thought was just exceptional. Like such a
Especially now that
solid
if you
sequel.
buy the second one, you have both games, so it's amazing. And I don't know if you played it yet. I haven't really played it yet, but they just dropped a huge update for Left 4 Dead that was literally a new whole campaign. Like, you know how you had like the 4 campaigns in each game? A whole new campaign made completely by fans.
Wow, really?
Yes, fan
Okay.
made campaign. They officially added it to the game. It's a free update. It's freaking crazy.
So you ever heard of that game Dying Light? The zombie
Yes.
game? Left 4 Dead and
Yes.
Dying Light just did a collaboration as well. So
Really?
Left 4 Dead's there's like a
All
skin
right, hold on.
pack or something.
Now that
Make
you
make
now
it
that you
look like Left 4
mentioned
Dead.
now that you mentioned Dying Light, we have to just we don't I'm not going to talk about it, but we have to mention Dead
Oh, that
Rising,
game's
another
phenomenal.
popular zombie game. I know,
Dying
I just
Light is
figured
phenomenal.
I just
I
think
love
Dead
that
Rising
game a
was
lot.
like the last one we didn't mention. Where you're
Unfortunately,
just
there was like a terrible person I used to play that game with, so I don't want to talk about it. But
it
great
happens.
game.
Yeah,
And
but
so
Left 4
you
Dead
can
is
mention
fun.
Dead Rising. You can mention Silent Hill, whatever. I don't know what we're talking about even anymore. Those games, but like this is, in my opinion, the greatest zombie video game of all time. Not
Okay.
specifically the final season. It was just the highest, the lowest amount of pixel picture I could find for some reason. The Google images are not kind to the Telltale
Dude, you
Walking
got to
Dead
go
game.
to the top and hit
Um,
large image. Listen,
we'll
that's
have to do
okay.
that
I
another
mean,
day.
I haven't
Did you
played
ever
The
play these?
Walking Dead. No, I played Telltale games
Oh,
like the Batman ones and the
dude,
Guardians of the Galaxy one, and those two were phenomenal. So I have to imagine that this is really good. And I've
you want to
only
speak
heard good
about
things
almost
about this.
shedding a tear or two or 70. This game really does that to you, man. It's when the writing is good, it doesn't matter if the graphics kind of annoy you or if the gameplay is a little clunky, because this was like their flagship first ever release.
Yeah,
So it
no,
was a little
I
rough in the
remember
first
that.
season. It was a little rough in the first season, but it doesn't matter. It was a huge smash hit. This company apparently, or unfortunately, made some terrible business decisions. And so they went under and now they're restarting up again, but there's barely any of the original creators and developers and writers behind it. So we'll see how much of the old soul is actually still there. I feel like it's going to be another Now This Nerdist situation where it's just going to tank.
That was
But
so stupid.
that was terrible. That was
That
awful.
was
But
terrible.
sorry, not Nerdist. What am I saying?
Right, source fed nerd,
Source fed
source
nerd.
fed and source fed nerd,
Thank
and then
you.
now this. Yes.
Nerdist is in its own terrible place right now, and
Right.
that's all on them. Doesn't Nerdist suck right now? I can't watch it anymore. I
I
used to
don't think
love it,
I've
man.
watched I don't think I've watched a Nerdist video probably since 2019.
Once they lost Chobot, I was like, I'm done.
Once Chobot was gone, and then like I know that it turned out that it was all lies, but like the Chris Hardwick situation when that happened, I was just like, this whole thing is just sketchy. And since then, you know, everything is good with Chris Hardwick. You know, that was all straightened out and he's fine. But before it was all straightened out and everything was sketchy looking, I was like, this is just I don't. Dan Casey's great, but Dan Casey's not enough to carry Nerdist
That's what I
on
was just
by
gonna say,
himself.
dude. It's like
And I
they
liked
went with
Allison. I liked Allison Hayslip too, but
but then they let her go. And,
yeah.
they went with Dan, and I'm like, damn, dude, I like Dan for like the Friday segment. Like,
Yeah, I
let
like
him
his
work on the
lists and
segment.
stuff.
Yeah, let him work on something all week, but he can't. I don't know. So I don't want to. Whatever. It's unfortunate. They're too corporate though. Like they got too corporate YouTube. But
Mhm.
you know,
It
I feel
happens.
like that kind of happened with The Walking Dead because the final season unfortunately was not as good as the first couple,
Mm.
but still great games. I highly recommend the first season. Absolutely blew my mind, and I think there's something in it for everyone. Other than that, I had a few honorable mentions. If you care to indulge me real quick.
Indulge, Chris. I
This
I
game
insist.
needs all the attention that it's never gotten. Canarium. It's based on H.P.
Canarium.
Lovecraft and his
Mm.
novel At the Mountains of Madness. Essentially, you're sent to an archaeological research center in Antarctica, and guys, Lovecraft always is the storyline of you crack that wrong piece of ice and you unleash an ancient alien demon that's been buried for 100 million years. And that is 100% true in the case here. And this
100
game
million years.
is visually stunning. It is such a good story. The gameplay, the writing for a walking simulator, it's like the most immersed I've felt in one in a long time, and really never went anywhere. Very unfortunate. It had like
Hmm.
a little hit while it had like a little bubble for a second on Steam, and then they put it on sale 6 months later and had a little bit more, but like not even the big streamers I watch picked it up. It's very overlooked, underrated game. I love it. Just outside of my top 300 games of all time. I highly recommend all of you guys go and check it out. And then, honestly, horror games have really, and horror in general, has replaced a lot of my former taste. So it's like tough for me to do this, but there is a game series, man, that I only discovered thanks to the quarantine. They're coming out with the most recent installment at the end of the year. It's going to be sort of like Soviet Union infiltration, and all this crazy stuff breaks out around, you know, experimenting on people and turning them into weird things. I don't want to give too much away of the heart of the game right now, so I guess I will just reveal the game that I am talking about, guys. Outlast. I don't know what Bundle
Aha.
of Terror is.
I'm
That is
assuming it's probably
something
like
new
the
to
first
me.
and second one put together.
Yeah, it looks like it because you have the
Yeah.
guy from the first on the left and the guy from the second on the right.
Outlast was a game that I never played, but shout out Tyler Wilson. When I went to his house, his brother Parker was playing it, and he explained to me like what the deal was, that you're like this reporter and the only way you can like see in the dark is with your camera, but your camera has a certain amount of battery. I'm like, nope, I'm not doing that.
It's really
I'm
cool.
not
It's a
putting
really cool
myself
concept.
through that
I,
stress.
I think this game gets a bad rap because it's always given out for free all the time. But you got to understand this game was such a big hit that the games that are given out for free are the games that can afford to give their games out for free for like a week span or a month span on a console because they've made back the money they put into this game.
Right.
And this game proves why it was such a big hit. And it also came out in 2013. I think helps push the walking simulator genre a little bit further. And I think the second one in 2017 really cemented it. And hopefully the new one's good because it is an out of left field premise for these types of games who kind of took the traditional haunted hospital, haunted house thing and ran with it and put their own twist on it. So we'll see. But I'm excited for it, man. And
That's
this was
cool.
a good conversation. Do you have any honorable
Absolutely.
mentions or
Yeah, I guess so. I just remembered
you don't have to
that.
have any?
No, I do. It's a good one. So like I've been saying, I never really played scary games because I didn't really like being scared. But I do remember a game that I loved still to this day, but now has been completely just eclipsed by Skyrim. There's no reason to play the other one anymore. Oblivion. Oblivion, Elder Scrolls 4, Oblivion, always really fun. Love that game. It's what made me love Skyrim so much because Skyrim was literally just like everything great about Oblivion, and then they took out all the really annoying things about Oblivion, like athletics and acrobatics and that kind of crap. Um, anyway, in Oblivion, because it was essentially like Skyrim before they took out all the annoying things that made Oblivion really annoying, one of which was how dark caves were if you didn't have a torch. Now, when I was playing Oblivion, I was a younger lad, I was probably like, I don't know, 11, 12, 13, something like that, playing Oblivion. And um, as a young kid, I was kind of a bitch, I was scared. I didn't like confrontation. I, I wasn't very tough. I'll admit that. And I was playing Oblivion, and every time I'd go into a cave, I would have one torch, and the torch would go out, and it'd be so dark, and there'd be no music, and it would be so scary. I'd be so nervous. Look how dark that is. That's so dark. And over in the dark part over here, like that's where like the enemy is walking around, or that's where you need to go. That's where the door is, and you have no idea where anything is. I would get so scared.
You can like
this
barely
game.
see it right now.
I would get so scared, and that's a dead body right there on the ground. So you don't even know what's going on. I would get so nervous that I would like hit up my Xbox menu and I would play one All American Rejects song on repeat because it was the only one that put me in like a happy mood, and it was Change Your Mind, which I don't know if you've ever listened to that song, but it starts with this really funny synth sound that just goes do 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 do, and it's like,
oh, okay. I thought you were gonna say it ends tonight because of that lyric, when darkness turns to light.
No, that's really funny though. I wasn't that deep. No, it just like it was a song that just because of how funny that opening synth sound is, it just like cut the tension immediately, and I was like, okay, I'm just playing a stupid game that's too dark. That's it. That's all that's going on now. And it was one song. The song ended. It just started over. It just played on repeat. I played the one song over and over again until I left the cave. And that was always how it was. And I just remembered that. So that's my honorable mention. Horror games are caves in Oblivion.
Oblivion and the Elder Scroll franchise are just immortalized in my upbringing, and I always got arrested because I would just steal shit and not know how to not do it when I was little. It was frustrating.
I have bought Skyrim probably 5 times. That's how much.
Yeah, you have. Game. That is another podcast for another day, and I think that's a good point to wrap this up, guys. Thank you for joining us on the second, but the first official episode of No NPCs. Now,
my first episode,
aptly co-hosted by Andrew of Talkin with Andrew and Chris. So, Andrew, why don't you let all of the Talkin TV and I suppose Talking with Andrew and Chris listeners, although they come out in droves and already know the deal, but let everyone here who might be stumbling upon this, because, hey, the YouTube algorithm overlords sometimes do shine favor on the lesser of the population of YouTube. So why don't you let them know where they can find us, what we do here on YouTube, and how to stay in touch with us.
Okay, Chris. Well, if you don't know, if you're watching this on YouTube, first of all, thank you, because we appreciate you watching it. If you're watching it and you want to know where you can listen to it, if sometimes you need to give your eyes a break or you need to go for a walk or something, you don't want to stare at your phone, totally reasonable. We're on all of the digital streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Radio Public, all the other ones that I never remember since it took me like over a year to remember Stitcher and Radio Public. We're on all of those. If you can, subscribe, follow us. If they allow you on the service, leave a rating, because we love being rated. That's why, we put ourselves out on the internet, because we seek validation. So please validate us. We would love that. If you're listening and you're like, you know what? They were talking about a lot of things that were probably on screen that I didn't get to see because I'm only listening. And you know what? We appreciate you listening, but it is a little bit more fun when you're in on the joke, isn't it? If you want to be in on the jokes and see our visual bits, then get over to YouTube. We're Talking with Andrew and Chris, Talkin TV. We're both on there. Subscribe to both. I'm sure that at the bottom it'll say something like featured channels or subscribe to or likes. I have faith in you guys. It's not going to be that hard to find it. You can find it. Subscribe. Like every video that's on there, because it really helps us out like so much, and it's literally a click. Like you just have to click and then you're done, and then it helps us out so much, and we'd really appreciate it.
And click that bell to turn on notifications as well.
Dude, don't just click the bell, punch the bell, punch it. That's what all the YouTubers say. You have to punch it. I think clicking it doesn't work. You have to punch it.
Yeah, punch that bell to turn on notifications.
Also, were you about to say follow us on social medias?
No. You were about to say that. I was about to cut you off.
You're right. Follow us on social medias at Talkin Podcast. Is it just Talkin TV or is it Talkin TV Podcast?
Talkin TV Podcast. Thank you very much.
At Talkin Podcast, at Talkin TV Podcast on all of the regular social medias. Follow us, chat with us, like us, email us, call my phone if you have my phone number. FaceTime me. If you know where I live, show up. Let's talk. Let's hang out.
Guys, basically, It's really easy. The links to each channel will be in the description, so you can find the other one through there, depending on which one you chose to listen to this with. Each channel will post or does post every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, with new episodes coming out on each of those days, hence why we post on those days. On Instagram, each channel is active daily. Again, the links to all those things will be in the description. This is going to be a monthly segment. Next month, we're going to be doing our favorite Star Wars video games, as we'll be in the middle of our Mandalorian recap month extravaganza, airing every Friday night at 7:30. We're going to be doing our recap series, so of course Andrew and I have to hit that at the halfway point with some good old Star Wars video game talks. And all that can really be said is, if you're here, you're not an NPC, and let's keep it that way. It's about
True.
time we take back what's ours, right?
Amen, brother.
Stay sweet.